Welcome back to the NRG Recruitment Finals by GamerSensei. 4 matches are now in the books. We've seen 2 go the distance. We've seen 2 be swept. I'm Nathan, that's Admiral Zamora, joined by William Amnesiac Barton. And Amnesiac, we've seen some crazy builds. We've seen some straightforward builds. What's your take on this event so far as we head into match number 5?
It's been pretty expected. I mean, Shaman's really good, is a good takeaway. But apparently Hunter's pretty good against Shaman, the new takeaway. Plus 70% win rate, according to Deathstar, which is a bold claim against what many would think to be the best deck in the meta at the moment. So that was cool to see. He was playing decks that he said would just destroy Shaman, including that wacky mage deck, which, you know, it's a bold claim to say that your Reno deck has 70% against an aggro deck. But, I mean, if he thinks it, and he executed well in his strategy, we're rolling into match number 5 between Impact and Rosty, and I think for a lot of people this is the one they've been looking forward to. Rosty been streaming more lately, obviously runner-up at the Spring Championships of 2016, very solid player, been putting up high ladder finishes, and then Impact's been around the scene for a long time. Yeah,
Impact has been around as a card player in other card games for quite a while now, and for Hearthstone in particular, I first met Impact at EGLX in Toronto, where he wasn't quite up to par, I would say, with the rest of the players in terms of how the panouts went for some of them. We saw a lot of professionals kind of make their way to the top 8 at that event, and that was a rough field, though. I mean, the field was really tough because there was a lot of points to be had towards the end of a season there, and so despite the field of a typical Open, which you expect to be a little bit weaker, it was stacked, and you saw strong players getting eliminated throughout the entire tournament. Impact was out, of course. Nostum had an early exit there. And the top 8 was I mean, it was brutal. It was like that Firebat was there. Fibonacci came close to making top 8 at that point. It's where we saw Neobility. I believe he won the event, if I recall correctly.
No, he came in second. He lost to Prelude in the finals.
That's what I remember. This. Yeah. That was a strong field to be competing in, and Impact certainly has work cut out for him there. But he's been around as sort of a grinder and Open Cup player and traveling the circuit with the live events that have been taking place in North America, trying to get his breakthrough. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's been around the scene for a long time. Kind of been more quiet lately, but I think he plans to step it up this year. I know there were some dream hacks going on around North America that he plans on attending. And definitely been a solid player for a long time. Like, just pretty on top of the meta. Not going to do anything too flashy usually. Just pretty solid. Strong decks and strong play. That eventually
will get some strong results. That's a good recipe for success. You usually get there.
That's kind of what you did, except with Kobold Geomancer added into the mix. Who knew, right?
I would say that most of my success is just from strong decks and strong play lately. But there's also, I think, having a capacity to think outside the box is important to get extra percent. When, especially in more solved meta games where people think they know what they're doing, that's like a really good time to just take like one extra step in deck building and beat them that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's
most of Hearthstone's knowing what the best decks are going to be and playing them really well.
Yeah, knowing the matchups, knowing the role, key cards, a lot goes into a lot of those positions. There you can see the bans on your screen. Impact's Warlock has been banned away, and Rosty's had his Shaman banned away. Rosty with Druid and with Rogue in the lineup, is a Warlock ban. Do you think that's correct there?
Is he foregoing? What deck is he foregoing with the Warlock and the? He has Warlock, Druid, Shaman, and Warrior.
I believe it's. I believe it's what I saw.
Does he not have a spectate? Does he not have a Warlock deck? I guess I've never seen Rosty play Reno Warlock. Yeah, I mean, he has a Warrior deck. It's probably Dragon Pirates. I know Rosty was a big Dragon proponent early on when the deck hadn't quite caught on yet during the Spring Preliminaries and Spring Championships. Had piloted that to a very high success rate. It's really interesting that there's no Warlock deck, though. I think Warlock's very strong right now. It's by many considered to be the best, and I think it's definitely in the top 4. But he's choosing to forego it. He's bringing the Rogue instead. But he's banning Impact's Warlock, which is very interesting because I think, oh, wow, that's an Acolyte of Pain.
With a Korkron Elite.
Yeah, that's what's confusing me. And an Armor
With an Armor Smith. Oh. Well, now my interest is very piqued at this point.
I think I know what deck. Actually, I think I know what deck this is. It's I saw Firebat put this on his Twitter, something like it. I think it has like Armor Smith, Acolyte, Korkron, Varian, Sogoth. It's like a really tempo-y control-y warrior deck type thing. Where you just try and beat them up with the big guys. Kind of like how Old Warrior worked. But I might be wrong. This might just be a Rosty special.
This guy definitely makes some brews at times. Like I'm thinking to summer prelims for Americas. He was playing Shaman, and the way that he was trying to fight the mirror match wasn't the same that everyone else was doing. He had 2 copies of Earth Elemental and 2 copies of Flame Wreath Faceless, and what was otherwise a pretty standard Shaman build.
Yeah,
he was just trying to
Hex, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and he was just trying to play big stuff and win the big stuff war. He's never been afraid to make heavy metagame calls and take risks in his deck building.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely taking a risk here. This is not Patches the Pirate. And we all know that one's pretty good. So Impact looking to make a 6/6 here. Pretty solid tempo. Rosty doesn't have an Execute. If he picked up an Execute, I think Rosty would probably just win. Shield blocks, too. Huh. So I think it is some sort of, like, kind of tempo-y, but more so control-y warrior deck.
Well, work's cut out for him at this point. This is tough. Like, he's got to find a way to kill this Edwin.
Think about Armorsmith, coin, Ghoul. Or maybe Ghoul, coin, Armorsmith.
What about just tanking it?
And playing Corkron?
Yeah. There's no answer to
deal with Azure. How do you beat Azure Drake then?
Well, right now his concern is how does he beat Edwin Van Cleef?
Well, I think you can set up to try and beat both.
With the Armorsmith coin and Ravaging Ghoul. So if you do that, you take out the patches, you gain a point in armor, you have a 1/3 and a 3/3 versus the 6/6, and then the 4/4 comes down afterwards.
Yeah, you can beat just the 4/4. You clear the board against the 4/4.
Yeah,
actually.
Okay. I'm cool with that actually. I actually really like that. In fact, that's probably the only realistic solution he's got.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting whether or not you play the Armorsmith first. I mean, my instincts were to, because gaining a point of life seemed more important than having a point of life in the Armorsmith, because it's going to die to an Edwin anyway. But is there some merit to not?
Uh-oh.
How much damage can Impact set up there? Plays, if he goes face, plays SI and conceals, attacks, you can drop him. But Rosty has game against that. He has shield blocks. But from Impact's perspective, he can put him to 13 when conceal 9 on board, 10 with the weapon. Then you're shivving into an out. Yeah. He's gonna choose not even backstab. That's really weird to me. I'd like to see him if he's gonna clear up the board. Yeah, this is fine too. Shiv, SI, and then backstab clear.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is fine. Had he not damaged the Armorsmith, this wouldn't have been an option, which is something to consider, but this doesn't seem like it's honestly that bad for Rosty. I mean, it's not good.
Well, now Shield Slam is activated as an out as well, because the Edwin's got a point of damage on it.
Oh, it is the Sogoth deck.
This is tough.
I feel like you're alright if you just shield block. Because you can shield block next turn, too. So it's not like it's actually a losing play. No, I think you do attack first. Right?
So kill the SI shield block, hope to draw Execute or Shield Slam.
Yeah, and if you whiff, next turn you can just shield block Acolyte. You get more draws at it. I mean, you can also hit an Acolyte this turn in armor, and then your opponent needs 8, which is in their range, but you've already seen a sap, so you can maybe hope that the Acolyte's getting a draw. Actually, I kind of like that more, because then you're contesting the Corkron Elite as well. Or you're contesting the Edwin with the Corkron Elite. Yeah, I kind of like the Acolyte. Or rather than the shield block. That actually makes some sense.
I think he's going for shield block. Wow, he's actually going for the Acolyte.
I like this. I think this is good. I mean, you put yourself dead to some stuff, like 8 damage, but it gives you a tangible answer to the Edwin, and then you can recover with shield blocks. Yeah, I think this is better. I like this. I mean, it plays into second sap, but second sap and nothing else you beat.
Yeah, second sap and conceal, though. I don't know if Impact's going to conceal this turn, though. I mean, there's been no answer to Edwin for so many turns. There's been no answer
to Edwin is the logic he's probably going to use. There kind of is a reason to, though, because if you don't win with this Edwin, you're probably going to lose. I mean, unless you draw exactly Gadgetson, but you're more likely to draw damage than draw Gadgetson.
Yeah, I like to conceal. Activates Cold Blood, activates Eviscerate.
Like, if you draw Auctioneer, you can still just prep and pray. 4/4's draw is still pretty good. I would conceal, probably. I wouldn't read his hand as shield blocks here. I would read it as big stuff.
The only thing I'm concerned with is that Impact has chosen so long to wait at this point that he's kind of telling Rosty he's got conceal.
Yeah, it's
so if he'd have thought about this way ahead of time.
Yeah, you're supposed to think through everything, then play with a calm pace through your whole turn. That's the best way to go about that.
It's looking like a double shield block turn to me.
No, yeah, you can stabilize after it. You shouldn't, like, you can very easily read that prep as just eviscerate. And so you're giving, but I guess, how much damage would Impact need? 6. He would only need 6. So yeah, if you read it as eviscerate, your opponent could still just go eviscerate Cold Blood, and they don't even need the combo. It's 6. And then, because you're at 13, right? And so they have 6 + 6 + 1, that's 13. But if you just shield block, even if they draw a minion, you have Revenge. And it could kill it. It'd have to be like Hazard Drake exactly. Yeah, I think you shield block and you never lose if you shield block. Rosty's had really tight technical play. I really liked the Acolyte last turn, even though it got punished. I really liked the double shield block this turn. This has looked solid to me. I like the Armor Smith on 4.
Wow. Yeah. Rosty's actually going to get out of this.
Yeah, he's going to stabilize.
That is crazy.
Here. I think he played this game really well.
That is crazy.
Yeah, once he gets to Sogoth, how does Impact win?
Which is a weird question to ask. I've never been asked that question. How do you beat my Sogoth?
Sogoth, go. Your move, idiot.
He's got to draw Auctioneer. Impact has to draw Auctioneer. Azure Drake is a close second.
That's pretty good, too.
So anything that deals damage and keeps digging. That's exactly what Impact needs. And he gets Auctioneer.
This game is still close. I still think I like Rosty.
Well, Bloodhoof Brave will protect him from some charge damage.
It protects him from Leroy. Do you ever read his hand as Eviscerate already and play around double Eviscerate by armoring? I don't think so. It seems weak. But you are rolling into Sogoth. He's going to choose to get an extra coin with the Auctioneer. This makes sense. I mean, I would be shocked if Sogoth didn't hit the table.
Yeah, I'd be pretty shocked too.
You could armor, shield slam, play Sylve maybe. That seems bad. I like this. That's the answer.
That is a good answer too. There's no saps left in the build though, so that Bloodhoof Brave.
That 2/6 is good. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many copies of Shadow Striker in the deck, but I'm gonna go with probably none. That's a card that's been getting trimmed.
Second prep.
Prep into dream.
Well, there's not going to be any.
Wait.
Yeah, there's not going to be any eviscerate shenanigans this turn, but.
So Revenge, Acolyte, Ghoul.
I think he's got to start armoring.
Yeah, you Revenge, Acolyte, Ghoul, armor.
Oh, that's 8 mana. The 3s all confused me. I was like 3, 3, and 3. I was like, what do you mean? Revenge is 3, and I was like 3 damage. It's like a moment of enlightenment hit me all of a sudden.
Everyone's like, man, this is why I can never go Sogoth tank up. I'm just not thinking about it right.
And he gets to connect for 5.
Yeah, he gets to put the pressure back on. This is good. If he picks up Grom, suddenly he's only 1 off. Impact's gonna have another Auctioneer push, but I think Rosty is getting out of the woods. Still not totally out of the woods. It's like on the edge of the forest. That's pretty good.
Yeah. That's an Eviscerate.
That's pretty good.
And that second one's not far off. That's a Cold Blood. And
the second 2/6 is clutch. Oh, but the 3/3 doesn't even die to Rosty's hand. He needs to use the Shield Slam and the... Oh, no. Wow. He found an answer.
Rosty had to draw removal this turn.
He played 2 Revenges. I think you attacked the 3/3 looking for Execute. If you pick up Execute, you win, because you just dropped the 2/6. But right now, Impact's on a Leroy Leroy draw to win if you don't pick up anything else. Oh my god!
Stolen goods.
That's insane!
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He can clear the auctioneer and have a 4, 9 Bloodhoof Brave in play. 5, 9, sorry. +3, +3.
That's so good. He needed stolen goods. Otherwise, he was just dead to Leroy.
I can't believe I'm hearing that.
Yeah, neither
I didn't think anyone would ever need that card. And there's no more card draw potential left for Impact. So this is just basically mini Sogoth.
This is mini Sogoth. Well, you don't really ever win if you kill it. So do you ever win if you pass? He has nothing. You Leroy? No, you have to do this. I don't know how you win.
Second Azure Drake into...
No more Shivs. Maybe a Deadly. If there's a Deadly Poison in his deck, he could get there.
Malagos? I mean, he's run 2 Shivs. I guess Shiv's just good because of the Pirates right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just straight aggro. Yeah, that Bash is a good pickup. Looks like Rosty is going to limp across the finish line. What a game. Oh my god. There's the Leroy. What a game.
Is there any way... What else can he draw to...
I don't think he has any more... Oh, maybe a Swashbuckler left? Get Heroic Strike or something? He's going to Leroy now, so Swashbuckler can get, like, Gorehowl. Which I think makes sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean... The 1/1s don't really change anything. He could have maybe hit... Oh, man.
Well, there goes the Gorehowl out. So Swashbuckler and Immortal Strike won't do it either because Rosty will be too high on life.
Go to 7, yeah. That's going to be game. What a game 1. That was way closer than I thought it would be after the mid-game. After Rosty stabilized, I thought Impact was way too all in, but he picked up the Auctioneer. He was able to get through most of his deck even after being so aggressive. That was a great game.
Yeah, to me, the only thing to look at is the Conceal on the Edwin, which he's clearly playing around top deck potential from Rosty when he makes the Conceal, because it's pretty easy read that Rosty doesn't have a way to actually handle it in hand, given the board state. So the difference between saving the Conceal to have it for a bigger turn later, or using the Conceal immediately and trying to eliminate draw potential from Rosty's deck. And the thing that couldn't really be taken into account there was how taunt minions affected that, or just double shield block. These little tiny things that are unlikely for Rosty to have at that point that make a bigger impact. So that is sort of the build from Rosty there, really being the big difference at the mid stage of that game was Impact having to play around the fear of what Rosty could draw rather than the knowledge of what is going to appear in this build.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was definitely a tough call for Impact, but it looks like we're going to get into game 2. It's going to be Rosty on the Rogue versus Impact on the Druid. And it looks like Impact is playing the Jade Druid, which we have seen one. We saw Ardwong playing that, but a lot of the other people were opting for the Aviana build. So that's interesting, right?
Yeah, I am a little bit curious if this is necessarily Jade Druid. With the Arcane Giants in there, I don't think it necessarily has to be. I think it'd be very reasonable to just see Jade Blossom alongside of this. I saw Stan Sifka post a list where he had... I'm sorry, not Stan Sifka. A Dog post a list where he had Jade Blossom is in a list that didn't really have any other Jade cards. It had one Jade Idol as the other Jade card.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting way, and it's actually the way I think that Jade Druid functions best, is just kind of by playing one Jade Idol and a lot of defense, with the logic that if we get the fatigue, I'm just going to Jade Idol you out. Rossi draws patches. Unlucky.
Mistakes were made. Yeah, you don't have a golden patches, Rosty.
I didn't know Rosty had golden rogue. Kind of surprising. Rosty doesn't seem like a rogue player to me. More a shaman and druid kind of guy.
He seems like an all-around player to me.
Yeah, but I've never seen Rosty play rogue. Where did he get golden rogue? I guess before I knew Rosty, by the logical...
Because I really haven't ever seen... I've never played against him while he's playing rogue, that's for sure. He's almost always playing warrior when I play him.
He's never streamed rogue. Weird. Yeah, maybe he's been playing for longer than we thought. Played when Miracle Rogue was good.
This turn I like from Rosty. I think a lot of players here would have just instantaneously used dagger and attacked. But that tells your opponent stuff about your hand. Like, he could very easily have things in hand that are trying to build into a different turn when he's playing this way. And this will give Impact the illusion that he's got more than he's actually got.
Yeah, he's just thinking about whether or not, I think what he's doing is he's thinking about whether or not to attack with the dagger. And he just doesn't want to dagger then think. You always want to think through your whole turn and then do everything at a reasonable pace because you don't give any hand context. Like, if you do everything and then wait with 1 more mana, like, should I Living Roots this turn? It's like, well, he probably has Living Roots. Or if you should wait with 0 mana, he probably has Innervate. But if you think through everything and then do it all in a calm manner, you're not going to give away anything. So Rosty's not actually giving away anything about his hand. This is just a tell. I'm thinking about whether or not to attack. So Impact may read that as he probably doesn't have a minion. Because if you have a minion, I personally wouldn't think too hard about not attacking. But Rosty's just kind of withholding information, even though it's very small. And yeah, that's just solid technical play. Oh, but here he does it. I mean, he didn't think for that long, but it's never good to play cards then think. Unless the card changes your play. Like, if you play a random card, you can think afterwards. But there's no reason to not just wait, think your whole turn, and then do it all at a reasonable pace.
Yeah. Impact with the Innervate Coin Nourish is giving him a big mana lead. And I think that's something that's super important versus Rogue when you're on a Druid build, is just being able to power out threats and keep them on the back foot the whole time. If you give them time to get Azure Drake or Tomb Pillager in play and then start developing, the Rogue player is the one with all the control at that point. If you're able to get Jade Behemoth down and then have the potential for Ancient of War, you're keeping the Rogue player at bay. And so in this instance, Rosty has to constantly think about how he's fighting against this and keeping this under control.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the big deal between Druid and Rogue is whether or not the Druid can handle the Rogue minions or they just kind of get zerged down by 4/4s. And so Impact took a really aggressive line where he's choosing to have fewer cards in hand so he can be more active on the board, which makes a lot of sense. He's not going to have as many options, but that's less important than you having like solid tempo plays and then hoping you find good stuff to do. Like the Wild Growth sitting pretty dead in this hand, but at the same time he's not behind, which is more important than having like really stellar options because you're just going to sit there and die with 8 cards in hand. So I like his decision to ramp. Ramping is generally going to be better in this matchup. The Swashbuckler draw is interesting. Rosty has the option to coin it out. I would like to see him not do that because I can't really think of anything you want to get. Even if you get a really good spell, you don't want to prep without the Auctioneer.
So is there a reason to not prep Fan this turn?
Oh, you want to prep Fan?
Yeah, prep Fan and kill that Jade Behemoth.
With the Swashbuckler draw, I don't hate it. Just going to trade and pass. I don't know about that. I think Prep Fan was pretty good there, yeah. I think if the Drake drew like a sap, it was pretty bad. But with the Swashbuckler draw, like you have a pretty good follow-up if you just Prep Fan and clear the board. Because you can just go Auctioneer Coin Swashbuckler if your opponent kills it, and then they have to have another answer. So I was kind of a fan. Yeah, I like the Prep Fan, but I think it depends on what the Drake draws. There are Drake draws where I don't think you can afford to do it. This is interesting. He's going to choose Giraffe for 4 and push 2.
Yeah, I mean, now suddenly the Auctioneer doesn't look nearly as good. Even though he's got more card draw to go with it, he just took 5 damage, and he's looking at 9 more. So this is the kind of situation where he can lose the game. He's rolling into this Auctioneer turn and maybe not having the gas to get this done. And the backstab's going to be dead in hand now because the prep just happened. So unless he wants to burn the prep with the backstab, it's going to be a lot harder to get through this.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a byproduct of just not playing for tempo. Like you gotta play for tempo first and then draw cards after. I always like Gadgets and Auctioneer to be the last card in my hand. I'm usually a fan of prepping aggressively, trying to really stick yourself on the board and then work from there rather than trying to get a big Auctioneer turn because it doesn't matter if you have cards if you're dead. Like you gotta live. You gotta do stuff first. And Rosty's just pretty dead now. Like, he didn't have a strong Auctioneer turn. He drew some extra cards, but he could have Prep Fan stuck a 4/4, and then his follow-up could have just been Auctioneer Coin Swashbuckler, and then he would have demanded another answer. So I definitely agree with you that prepping the Fan with the Drake was solid last turn. He kind of missed that opportunity. Now he's just scraping for answers. This is bad.
I mean, at this point, he's got to make the most of it. I do actually like the backstab on the Swashbuckler there, just to keep digging into the build. He's got to hope that Impact just kind of has a dead hand after this. And that's not going to happen. His preps are gone, backstab's gone, and counterfeit coin's gone. That Edwin is going to be stranded in hand. Not prepping the fan led to a board state where Impact was able to get 5 free damage and development. And that 5 free damage and development snowballed to this state.
Man, I don't know. This game is done.
Yeah, this was pretty done.
This was... it's so rough. Like, it's not intuitive to prep fan with Auctioneer in hand, but it really kind of is, honestly, when you think about how every other card draw card in the game works. Obviously, it's a little different, but you always want to play for max tempo when you have card draw in hand and then draw cards afterwards. And with Auctioneer, it's a little different, obviously, because you gain extra cards from keeping spells, but like you gotta live and then do that. And he just didn't play in a way where he's ever gonna have tempo if his opponent had a solid turn like Drake Wrath or like Swipe, Jade Spirit, or any number of things. So I definitely think that turn 5 was the turning point in this game, and this is just kind of like the aftermath of it.
Yeah, it's just gonna be hard for him to recover. Just
this
Impact drawing more cards. He's got the Arcane Giant. Jade Idol's pretty good.
Yeah, this is really good. He's going to play an 8-8 and like a 5-5, and he's going to push 3.
This doesn't get much better than this. And Rosty's hand is all minions.
Yeah, I mean, he would have drawn stuff to do had he prepped the fan. Like, really, you lose out on 2 Auctioneer draws, and you're drawing into spells anyway that you can maybe play with Auctioneer. Like, I don't know. I think that was the turning point.
Yeah,
that was definitely thing.
It's definitely the critical turn for this game, I'd say. Impact, though, really good recognition to know that he's going to have to rely on the power of the draws from the deck rather than using Nourish to gas up, where that is exactly what Impact is. He didn't have card draw, and he went for the tempo anyway. And so step 1 for him was snag the tempo, and then because Druid has such strong draw power, to pick up draws and play stuff later on. And honestly, that's one of the ways that you need to play Druid, is recognize those points of risk and seize them when you can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was able to just play in a confident manner where he's like, all right, I know that in this matchup, if I'm too conservative, I'm probably going to die. So I got to take some amount of risk. This isn't a huge risk. I'm probably going to draw into good stuff to do. My deck is mostly just pretty big stuff to play. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to ramp Nourish and get ahead. Whereas Rosty, on the other hand, had an opportunity to not even take a risk, to just be more aggressive and rely on the power of the draws of his deck to kind of bail him out afterwards. But he chose not to, and we can see that Impact's risk got hugely rewarded. Rosty's lack of risk got punished. So, yeah, it was a pretty intuitive game, honestly.
Yeah, but now game number 3 getting underway. Impact going to be on Shaman, and with the Jade Claws, the Totem Golem, and the Flame Tongue Totem, I gotta believe this is the SPO list that we have been seeing become dominant on ladder in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Impact's definitely the type to just play aggro Shaman. Deck's good. Beat him up with Totem Golem. Not that complicated of a concept. For Rosty, though, he has the Blood Mage and the Backstab. When Rogue versus aggro Shaman, I used to have to play this matchup a lot when I played Rogue on ladder, questing Rogue, back in like late-ish summer. And Blood Mage Backstab was one of the ways you could win, because it actually let you beat Totem Golem. So it's interesting that he's actually going to pitch the Blood Mage here. I mean, you don't keep patches, and I think you keep the prep as well, but I would have definitely kept the Blood Mage. It's a card that cycles, so it's never going to be that bad. It gives you game against Tunnel Trog specifically. I think that was a pretty big blunder from Rosty.
Yeah, the Blood Mage is such a key card in this matchup because it allows you to contest Totem Golem and the Tunnel Trog when you have Backstab. And Rosty's now foregone this, and he even had prep, so he would have had the Phantom Knives to go along with it, but he picks up SI7 Agent. And so that's the one thing to think about, is how important does Rosty feel SI7 Agent is in this matchup, or perhaps Small Time Buccaneer. So that is something curious to think about. I think that Blood Mage is strong enough to get the job done. I personally wouldn't pitch it away, but I'd really like to know what he's fishing for when he's pitching the Blood Mage away.
Yeah, I mean, I would think he's just looking for Edwin, because that's one of the ways you win. I would like to see Rosty pass here. I think that is the strongest setup you can get going to the next turn. You know that your opponent might play Jade Claws. They might just roll a Totem. but you put yourself in a position where you can kill Tunnel Trog and Totem Golem with Backstab SI, Prep Fan, and the Weapon Swing. You eat some damage, but the new Aggro Shaman lists don't play Doomhammer. Their amount of damage is much more finite. So once you get control of the board, they're going to have a much harder time. So I think making sure you have a better swing on the board is more important than doing something like this. Because now, let's say your opponent plays the Jade Claws, which before you had really good game against. He plays the Jade Claws and trades. Now you weapon, and he has a 2/2 weapon, and he has 3 mana. The other way, you got to swing and keep a 3/3 uncontested on the board, maybe force a Lightning Bolt. So I think that this is kind of an overreaction and not really understanding how much life he really has to play with, because it's more than it used to be now that Doomhammer is generally out of the deck.
Yeah, the other thing to consider, too, is if Impact's playing any sort of heavier build, which the thing from below indicates here, him playing this quickly and not playing with the life total more means that that's a bigger advantage for Impact, because every single resource Rosty uses inefficiently or not as efficiently in terms of on board means that gives Impact more time to find those big cards. And that means those big cards are going to have more of an impact because Rosty has less resources. So him playing for as greedy as he did, I think, is a nod to the style that he would anticipate Impact playing, which that's going to be depending on the dynamic between the two. For me personally, having played against Impact before, I would assume it's a more damage-heavy build.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and it looks like it is going to be more mid-range. So Rosty's overreaction going to cost him even more. But I think even assuming it was just a very aggressive deck, barring it being a Doomhammer deck, I would have made that pass play. And even if it was a Doomhammer deck, you just gave yourself so much more game against the current board state and what he's going to follow up with that I think Rosty kind of missed a really good opportunity to just be patient and then have a good swing turn in a matchup where having a big swing turn and then starting to snowball is a really big deal.
Yeah, I like Impact going for the Flame Tongue Totem here as well. I mean, he's just seen Tunnel Trog go uncontested for multiple turns. This thing's pretty liable to get in some serious damage.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is solid for sure. It also kind of goes along with the theme of I'm playing Aggro Shaman, overreact. Oh, I played Azure Drake, you're out of cards. That sucks. So there's also the bluff factor. But yeah, this is probably going to wind up dealing 4 damage. It clearly doesn't have a good answer to Tunnel Trog. I wonder if you ever have to sap the Tunnel Trog here. I actually don't think so. I think your best turn is Prep Fan, and then, or you Buccaneer and then Prep Fan, because you don't want to draw the patches. And then you can Cold Blood the patches, run over the Flame Tongue, and dagger the 3/1. It gives you board lead, and then you play Tomb Pillager. That seems pretty good to me, honestly. I mean, this is the other play, but it seems worse.
I don't really know. To me, it's kind of interesting because Rosty could be reading into the hand here from Impact as well. The fact that it has been slow since the Totem Golem Tunnel Trog. Maybe he's starting to piece together the fact that Impact is having a slower hand. And if that's the case, that means Tomb Pillager is going to fight better on board.
Could also mean that it's going to get hexed. If you want to read it that way. Impact has a good clear on the Tomb Pillager here, if he sequences his things right, though. Yeah, looks like he is. He's going to choose to forego the Totem in favor of playing the Tunnel Trog. Next turn, he's going to have 5 mana anyway. Yeah, that makes sense. Going to take out the Tomb Pillager. It's pretty solid.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Rosty is quite dead. You have Small Time Buccaneer, then Fan. I think you do it in that order. Admirable's giving me this look like, nope, that's not good enough. Tap out.
Yeah, this is not. I mean, he's not getting out of this.
Yeah, this is rough. Rogue. I mean, I have no idea what you do. I guess you go Small Time Buccaneer, Cold Blood Edwin, Coin Edwin, maybe.
Yeah, at this stage, I think it's important to go back and look at the turns available. So last turn, I think, was the most interesting actual play turn from this game, where Rosty had 2 very different decisions that led very different ways. But the mulligan of the Blood Mage is confusing to me, because that is a card that Impact needs to take care of. If it doesn't take care of Blood Mage, you are getting some immense value, and the Blood Mage is replacing itself. So when he mulligans it away, I don't really see the point of keeping the backstab if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, the mulling of the Blood Mage just seems like an oversight to me, to be honest. I just don't think he quite understood that Blood Mage is so as powerful as it is against Shaman. I don't think Rosty is a very experienced rogue player based off of what we've seen. I do like this play from him, though I think I would have coined as well. This coin is probably not doing anything for you, but an 8/8 Edwin maybe increases your clock by a turn. Let's see if Impact has discipline to the extent where he kills this Edwin. It looks like he is. When he goes for the Maelstrom Portal line, it really is a tell that he's just trying to take the game slow. I don't know if this... Oh, well, the Stone Tusk Boar roll, this is... Oh, wow. I don't get that at all.
With the Healing Totem out, I would think he would have used the Tunnel Trog on the 1/1 as well.
Yeah, I would have much rather just see him use both the 1/1s into the 6/2 and then value trade the Tunnel Trog.
Yeah, just keep the Glaw around.
Yeah, I mean, taking 6 sucks. That's like one of the ways you could maybe lose.
That's not a good draw.
No, it's like Dagger, but really depressing.
Allows him to keep the coin.
Yeah, I mean, you do keep the coin. Sick. Jesus, he's dead.
No, he's fine.
He's fine.
This is fine.
All right. Well, you don't Azure Drake here if you're Impact. That can't be better than Totem Thing from Below Feral Spirits.
Yeah, the runaway of this game is just so real at this point.
Yeah, Rosty's pretty locked out. Brutal.
Well, SY7 agent?
I guess you start with Fan of Knives. Ooh, that's unlucky.
Yeah. Spear Claws is active.
You're right. It is. Yeah, maybe Rosty turned the corner. Who knows?
No, that didn't happen.
Are you sure?
Wow. Yeah, that's an eye up black ball I got drawn. And that's game over.
I think Rosty's fine. He's going to draw Blade Flurry.
Blade
and he's still going to
Flurry.
lose. He still would lose if he drew Blade Flurry here. Impact not respecting it, though. Rosty just rips Blade Flurry.
I'd be so mad.
I would be so happy.
I think I'd probably just leave.
Dude, no, you wouldn't.
I think would.
You wouldn't leave. You wouldn't. Like, come on.
Oh, you call me out on this. Very dominant game, I think, from Impact to this one, and a lot of this is just the mulligan. I think was everything in this one. I think if Rosty keeps the Blood Mage, you see such a different game that it's just night and day.
Yeah, the Blood Mage keep would have definitely helped. I also think that he misplayed turn 2 pretty heavily, honestly. Like, I think if he takes the slower line and he's just willing to eat some damage and understand that that's okay, and then just roll into stronger swing turns and then follow up with Tomb Pillager, that would have been way better. So, like, those were the early decision points really wound up mattering, even though it's an unfavored matchup. He had, like, chances, I think, to put himself in a spot where he maybe could have won, and he just kind of didn't capitalize on them. But rolling into game number 4, it's going to be Impact's Rogue versus Rosty's Druid, and Rosty's a Doomsayer and an Aviana. What's going on?
Yeah, I've been seeing this list creep up a little bit too, where Druids have been struggling so much with early aggro that Doomsayer started creeping the builds to fight against it. And frankly, I don't disagree with this. I think it's actually a really smart choice because it's kind of acting as like a pseudo ramp spell, where the whole point of the card is to delay your opponent enough so that you can get something on board. So when you have Doomsayer or when you have Wild Growth, they're both getting you to the next turn in a relatively safe position. And so that's kind of the purpose of this card. And this also allows you to save Wild Growth sometimes for the turn 10 spot, which is really important. Drawing cards off Actioneer in multiples using a Wild Growth is a very important facet of this build.
Yeah, for sure. From what I've seen, when they have Doomsayer, it's generally a nod to them playing the Cthulhu variant. And so I don't think you generally see Auctioneer with that. But if he is playing Auctioneer, that's definitely a very big deal. Oh, he's going to Cold Blood here. Also, unlucky. Impact drew patches. But, yeah, I mean, Rosty can't kill this. Oh, that sucks. I mean, it's
Take
a kill,
7.
but, yeah, I mean, you do it. You got to feel good about that if you're Impact. You just chins 7 from your 1-drop.
Yeah, you used 2 cards. Rosty used 2 cards. Rosty took 7.
He's at 23.
Yeah.
Impact's at 30.
That's not a good draw. I'll tell you what, though. If Rosty draws Auctioneer, this hand is going to get silly.
If Rosty draws anything big, this hand is going to get silly. I think if Rosty draws anything big, he should just play his hand. Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right, well, I can tell you that you cycle that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just taking damage and dying.
I'm honestly curious if there's any merit to not killing the SI. Yeah.
Just saving it to gain 8.
It's going to take 3 turns for the SI7H to kill you, and now you've lost your second Feral Rage. So your ability to stabilize is very low at this point. And he's probably going to need just a strong draw to get this done anyway. And now the patch is actually not looking that bad because this Edwin's going to...
The patches is pretty good. I mean, it would have been better when it hit him 5 times over the course of the game, but this is pretty good. Stone Tusk Forge gets in. Whoa! This is definitely...
This is Edwin all day, every day for me.
Oh, yeah. Go for the throat. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, if Rosty doesn't have Mulch, basically that turn, that's as close to a win as you're going to get.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Now you can just conceal it, too. That's just game.
Do you conceal it?
Yeah, you can do both now.
How big is the Edwin here? How big is the Edwin?
I think it's like a 12-12 or 10-10. I mean, it's not lethal, but it's close, and he has no more Feral Rages. Okay, this way, Mulch doesn't even beat you.
Well, I was curious if making the 12-12 Edwin was ever better, but I guess playing around the Mulch, playing around the Naturalize is probably stronger.
I think he should discover a minion here. Oh, he did. I mean, I guess you play Aviana. Yeah, I would play Aviana here. It's not good, but it's not... No, it's not good. But it is what it is.
It's not getting better, that's for sure.
No, it's definitely not getting better. If Impact Azure Drakes into like a 3-3, that's kind of like a 3-3, but you don't beat that next turn. If Rosty draws Malagos, maybe? Oh, that's pretty good.
Sort of.
What do you mean, sort of? You can Alex your opponent.
Man, it's pretty good.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Do you ever Alex your opponent and take the value trade?
No. You were dead. You were then dead to Cold Blood and Eviscerate and basically Sap.
Yeah, but now you don't threaten lethal with any draw. Alright, you literally did Impact to runner minions here, and then you draw like Ancient of War.
That's a Cold Blood instead. Wow.
Man. I've seen that flying off the top.
Oh my gosh!
That's heat.
That'll do it. Impact seals the game. Rosty not able to deal with the giant Edwin Van Cleef, as few men ever are. That's a beating.
That was a brutal game. Edwin Van Cleef is big.
Yeah, I actually really want to commend Impact for his thought process in terms of preserving outs from his opponent to win games. A lot of his plays, I feel like, have been focused around hand reading and what cards left from the opponent actually win the game. And from Rosty, I really have to commend just the technical play of game number 1. I think when that guy is experienced on a class, you are seeing some very strong plays from him. But the Rogue left something, I think, to be desired for me, where I think if he practices Rogue a lot, that Rosty can get to that point where he's playing it on the level that he's playing the Warrior was in game 1, because game 1 was just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I think Rosty is kind of a muscle memory type player, where you got to get a lot of reps to understand the class in and out, and then he is at that really high level of play. But I think he is pretty unexperienced in Rogue, at least in its current iteration, and I think that did show. He made a couple of pretty critical misplays in games 2 and 3. Game 4 I thought was pretty all right overall. I mean, his hand kind of played itself. It was just innervates and a couple big guys, so you play the big guys. But yeah, I mean, you gotta commend Impact for playing to outs, for making sure he definitely understood his matchups. I mean, there's no doubt there. He knew to ramp against Rogue. He knew to be aggressive and make an Edwin against Druid. Like, these aren't obvious things. Those were pretty hard to spot. So you got to commend that. We're gonna have some screenshot analysis for you of this final series in a few minutes. So we're going to throw to a quick break, but don't go anywhere.
All right, the first one's for Rosty. So this was turn 5 of the Druid versus Rogue, or the Rogue versus Druid rather. And so
yeah,
here you chose
to fan here.
Yeah, you chose not to prep fan, and I kind of just wanted you to talk me through why you thought saving the prep here was going to be better.
I didn't. I roped out, and then by the time I figured out that it was just way better, I could play prep, but I couldn't. I didn't think I'd make it in time, so I just decided to keep it.
Okay, so you were aware that this was a mistake.
Yeah,
we thought this was definitely a good turn of prep fan, just under the logic that play aggressively, you get tempo, you force an answer on your Drake, and then just add some coin swashbuckler is pretty solid follow up to that.
Right.
But, yeah, so long as you recognize this is a mistake. I kind of just figured you weren't that experienced on Rogue. I've never really seen you play Rogue.
Yeah, I'm really not. I'm definitely not. I am not the Rogue man. That's definitely like lack of experience. It's part of the reason why I roped out, I think. I don't know. Like, I think the Rogue games I was roping a lot, but like it's lack of experience for sure. I definitely am not like amazing at Rogue.
Yeah, but I definitely thought you played the Warrior game well. Like, especially turn 5 where you played Acolyte instead of shield blocking. I thought about it for like the whole turn, and then I decided that was better. So that was really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into this second screenshot. This one's from the same game. It's gonna be for you, in fact. Oh yeah. So this is the turn where you chose to coin, innervate, nourish, and I kind of just wanted you to walk me through why you thought that was better than just say taking it slow and hero powering, or maybe like pointing out Blossom.
A lot of it had to do with the contents of my deck. I knew that my deck had a lot of card draw. I knew that my deck had a lot of big threats, and I knew that my hand already had another ramp card. So I wanted to like ramp as much as possible, honestly, just to get through to my 6 drops and my 8 drops, like have enough mana to play them. I also played Ragnaros in the deck along with the double Arcane Giant, so I really wanted just to be able to play my cards at a stage of the game where the Rogue really couldn't answer it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agreed with the ramp decision, just because having cards in hand against Rogue is much less important than being the aggressor, being ahead on tempo, having solid answers, and developing your minions. So I thought that was definitely a good decision. Showed a lot of understanding of the matchup. All right, very good. Well played to both of you. Congratulations on your win, Impact. And yeah, thanks for joining us for the NRG Recruitment Finals.
So that's going to wrap it up for the NRG Recruitment Finals. 5 matches have taken place. We've seen 5 victories. But at the end of the day, it's going to be Amnesiac choosing who's coming through to Team NRG on the roster. That's going to be taking place in January, so a little bit of time for him to think about it. And in order to catch how that announcement's going to be taking place, of course, you're going to want to follow GamerSensei app over on Twitter. Not only that, but you're going to get updates to all the stuff that's going on alongside GamerSensei. So one of the big ones that's happening is the Wednesday 100. Every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, you're going to see pros battling it out in this tournament. So make sure you follow the channel here as well as GamerSensei app on Twitter to stay up to date with that. Before we sign off, Amnesiac, do you have any final words for us?
Yeah, I thought this was awesome, honestly. Just getting to pick people's brains after the match. I mean, I don't really know how to cast. I was just kind of making it up. But this is really fun. I mean, we got to watch some really good Hearthstone. It's a new meta, which is always fun to see what people come up with for that. But yeah, I mean, thanks so much for joining me, Admirable. I know you did this mostly out of your own goodwill. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in. And once again, if you enjoyed the content, you can follow either of us on Twitter. You can follow GamerSensei app on Twitter for updates about the conclusion and the results of this tournament. But yeah, I think that's all I got. I had a really good time. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for watching, for everyone in production, for Amnesiac, for myself. Thank you for watching, and have a good night.